The morning light came through the hospital window in thin, pale strips, and I remember thinking it looked nothing like the golden hour I had imagined for this moment. I had pictured warmth. I had pictured his hand in mine. Instead, I was watching my husband straighten his tie in the small mirror above the sink, checking his reflection with the same careful attention he gave to everything that mattered to him, which I was learning did not include me. "You're really doing this," I said. My voice came out quieter than I expected. It hung in the air like smoke that refused to clear. Daniel turned slowly. That familiar smile crossed his face, the one that once made my knees feel weak. Now it felt like a mask slipping into place. "Victoria," he said gently, like I was a child who had dropped her ice cream. "This dinner has been locked in for months. The Harrington account could change everything for our future. You know how important this is for us." He said us so smoothly, but I had just pushed for 31 brutal hours. The pain meds had failed me twice. Stitches pulled tight across my body. Our baby girl lay sleeping in the plastic bassinet, 6 hours old. Her tiny chest rose and fell in perfect rhythm. And Daniel was already halfway out the door. I swallowed hard. "The car," I whispered. "At least leave the car so Mom can pick us up tomorrow." He paused. That single beat of silence said more than any excuse ever could. "I need it for the right entrance," he replied. "Harrington notices every detail. I already arranged a service for you and the baby. Everything is handled." He leaned down. His lips brushed my forehead. The scent of the cologne I had wrapped so carefully last Christmas filled my nose. Then he walked out. His footsteps echoed down the long hallway. Each one sounded like a door closing forever. I stared at our daughter. Something deep inside my chest shifted. Not a break, a decision. Quiet, certain, final. My fingers found my phone. I dialed without thinking. "Dad," I said when he answered on the first ring. "I need you." Richard Calloway did not ask why. He never did. "I'm on my way," he said simply. His voice was steady as always. My father is 63. He started with one rundown building in downtown Charlotte. Now he owns 42 commercial properties across the Southeast. He speaks little, but when he does, every word carries weight. He never openly criticized Daniel. Not once. But I remembered the way his jaw tightened at our wedding. The way he stood by the window afterward, staring out at the garden like he was already seeing cracks in the foundation. Daniel Mercer and I met 4 years ago at a charity event downtown. He had the kind of easy laugh that filled a room. His eyes locked on mine like I was the only person worth seeing. I was 30 then, tired of being valued only for my brain and my designs. Daniel made me feel seen, truly seen, or so I thought. We dated for 14 months. He proposed on a rooftop in Savannah, my favorite city. He remembered every detail I had ever shared. At least, that is what I believed. We married 18 months later. Dad walked me down the aisle, his hand warm and strong under my arm. Right before we reached the altar, he leaned close. "You can always come home," he whispered, "no matter what." I thought it was just a father's love. Now I know he saw the storm coming long before the first raindrop fell. The first year of marriage felt like a dream I did not want to wake from. Daniel worked hard in corporate acquisitions. He traveled often. His ambition excited me, until it started swallowing everything else. By the second year, small changes crept in. He asked more questions about Dad's properties. Casual at first, then sharper. He floated ideas about investments, deals that sounded exciting over wine. I was an architect. I built things people could touch. I did not understand the world of shell companies and leveraged funds, and I did not push hard enough to learn. I wish I had. When I told Daniel I was pregnant, he smiled. He hugged me, but even then, something felt off. Like his mind was already calculating how this new fact fit into his larger plans. Pregnancy changed me in ways I never expected. Every appointment, every ultrasound, I felt my whole world rearrange around this tiny life. Daniel came to most visits. He held my hand, but his eyes kept drifting to his phone. His answers felt rehearsed. The night labor started, I called him 3 times. He was at another work function. He finally picked up on the 4th ring. 90 minutes later, he walked into the delivery room still wearing his suit. "How long is this supposed to take?" were the first words out of his mouth. 31 hours later, our daughter entered the world. Daniel cut the cord. He held her for exactly 6 minutes. I counted every second. Then he handed her back and checked his emails. 6 hours after her birth, he left for that dinner. Dad arrived early the next morning. He brought Mom fresh flowers from their backyard garden, and a thermos of the chicken soup I had loved since I was little. He sat beside my bed, held his granddaughter in silence for a long time. Then he looked at me with those calm, steady eyes. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. I told him about the dinner, the car, the work calls during labor, the way Daniel asked how long my pain would last. I told him about the growing questions about the family properties, the casual mentions of deals that never quite added up. Dad listened without interrupting. When my daughter fussed, he passed her gently back to me. He leaned back in the chair. The silence stretched. "Victoria," he said at last, "there are things I should have told you sooner." He had been watching Daniel quietly for 2 years, not spying, just paying attention the way a man who built an empire learns to notice tiny cracks. A mentioned investment that did not exist in any records. A shell company that raised flags with his legal team. Patterns of interest in transactions that required information Daniel should never have accessed. I have proof now, Dad continued. Wire transfers, forged signatures on Henderson-related documents, a Delaware account receiving diverted funds. He paused. Your husband has been using your marriage to steal from the firm, slowly, carefully, in ways he thought I would never catch. I looked down at my sleeping baby, her perfect little face, her tiny fist curled around my finger. How much? I asked. The number he gave was large enough to hurt, but not enough to destroy what Dad had built. It was calculated, precise, the kind of theft that hides in plain sight. The prenup, I said softly. It covers this. Dad nodded. If you choose to move forward. I thought about the tie, the mirror, the cologne, the footsteps fading while my daughter was only hours old. Call the lawyers, I said. By the time Daniel returned the next afternoon, the room had changed. Dad had arranged a private suite. Inside waited Dad, his lead attorney, and Susan Park, a sharp matrimonial lawyer from Atlanta who specialized in uncovering hidden assets. Daniel stopped in the doorway. His eyes scanned the room quickly. That calculating look I once thought was brilliance. Victoria, he said. What is all this? Please sit down, Daniel, Susan said calmly. He sat. What followed was 2 long hours of truth. Susan laid out documents one by one. Dates, amounts, signatures that did not match. Daniel denied it at first. His voice stayed smooth, almost convincing. Then Susan placed the Delaware account statements in front of him. His face changed. The mask cracked. He tried everything after that. He reached across the table for my hand, gave me the look that once made me feel chosen. I felt only sadness now. Like watching a performance I had applauded for years. He claimed the documents were misunderstood. Susan explained why they were not. He said he did it all for our family, for our future. I thought about 31 hours of pain, 6 minutes of holding our daughter, a client dinner that mattered more. He told me I was making a terrible mistake. Dad, who had stayed quiet most of the meeting, finally spoke. Every decision has already been made, he said evenly. Accounts are frozen. The house locks were changed this morning. Your things are with the concierge. Daniel stared at my father for a long moment, then at me. You're really doing this? He asked. The same words I had spoken to him in the delivery room. I looked down at my daughter. Her dark eyes were open now, unfocused but curious. Yes, I whispered. We are. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal meetings and quiet tears. Federal prosecutors took over the fraud case. The prenup did exactly what it was designed to do. Protect what mattered. I moved back to my parents' house for the first 3 months. Not because I could not manage alone, but because Mom cooked soup that tasted like childhood safety. And Dad sat in the big armchair every evening reading softly to his granddaughter, his voice low and steady. I needed to remember what real love felt like. Reliable, unshakable. I named her Clara, after my grandmother. She has Dad's calm eyes, and already a quiet determination that makes me smile through my tears. Later, we learned the Harrington account never existed. There was no big client dinner that night, just a reservation for 2 at an expensive restaurant. And a woman from Daniel's company whose name appeared on credit card receipts uncovered during the audit. I was not shocked. In a strange way, it brought relief. The full picture finally made sense. No more half-seen shadows. Dad never said, I told you so. That was never his style. One cool October evening on the back porch, he simply said, you handled this with more strength than it deserved. I learned from the best, I answered. He smiled. A small, proud smile. I returned to my architecture firm in November. My team welcomed me back with gentle kindness. No one pushed for details. I was grateful. That winter, I worked on a special project. A home built into a hillside in Asheville. Large windows that welcomed the morning sun. A kitchen at the heart of the house where the family said they gathered most. I poured everything I had learned about real foundations into those plans. Honest lines, strong supports, spaces meant to hold love. Clara is 8 months old now. She sits up by herself. She reaches for everything with serious focus, especially Dad's old watch. She studies it like it holds the secrets of the universe. She sleeps through the night most of the time, completely unaware of how her life began in pain and betrayal. I want to protect that innocence as long as I can, then give her the truth gently, when she is ready to carry it. I do not hate Daniel. That would be easier. Mostly I grieve the man I thought he was, the future I had planned around him, the years I spent believing his attention was real. But underneath the grief, something else grew. Quiet freedom. The kind that comes when you finally set down a weight you did not realize you were carrying. My shoulders feel lighter. My dreams feel like my own again. 2 weeks ago, Dad called on a random Tuesday. Just checking in, he said, though we both knew better. Are you okay? He asked. I looked at Clara on the floor. She was turning a wooden spoon over and over in her tiny hands, her face full of wonder. Yes, I told him honestly. I think I really am. He was quiet for a moment. Good, he said. Then she's going to be remarkable. She already has that look in her eyes. What look? The one that sees clearly. You have it too. I watched the late afternoon light spill across the room I had designed to catch it just right. Clara cooed softly at her spoon. In that moment, I understood something deep. Pain can teach us to build better, to see sharper, to love wiser. The cost was high, but the learning was not wasted. Some mornings, I wake before the city stirs, before Clara opens her eyes. I sit at my drafting table with hot coffee. The apartment is still. I used to fear that kind of silence. It felt empty. Now it feels full of possibility, like a strong foundation waiting for new walls, like a future that will hold. I sketch lines that are honest. I design spaces where families can grow without fear, where love does not have to prove itself every day. And when Clara wakes, I pick her up. Her warm weight against my chest reminds me why every hard choice was worth it. She smiles at me with those clear eyes, and I smile back, ready for whatever comes next. We are building something real now, together, with people who never left. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories.